The Samsung S24 Ultra has one of the best camera systems from any smartphone of 2024. But can GCam deliver better photos and videos? Let's find out in the Samsung S24 Ultra camera test. The free Google Camera Port, or GCam, I'm using for this comparison is from developer Bigkaka, and there's a link to download this port in the video description. But before I go any further, there is an issue at the time of recording with the main 200 megapixel rear camera, where I cannot get it to fully work with GCam and some other camera apps, specifically this pink strip that copies the top of the image. The other cameras generally work well though, and can sometimes offer improvements over the stock Samsung camera app. I'll have more to say about these issues towards the end of the video, including whether open camera might be a better option for right now. Let's go ahead and compare a variety of images, including selfies and night mode shots, plus video samples, with both the pre-installed Samsung camera app and GCam. Let's start with a look at all the cameras for this Whitechapel shot. For the ultra-wide, GCam is a lot more saturated and warmer than Samsung's stock app, but the white siding on the chapel is overexposed. For the main wide, again GCam is blowing out the chapel, but it's certainly a more contrasty image than stock. Here's the 3x zoom on the stock app and 2.7 times on GCam for some strange reason, and I think GCam actually wins this one. It's brighter overall and more saturated, but not blown out. Lastly, the 5.1 times GCam and the 5 times from stock. Again, an easy win for GCam, and that's for the zoom presets in for GCam. But of course you have a 10 times zoom from the stock cam, which just crops in from the 5 times telephoto camera, and it's not bad. Nice and sharp, but pretty neutral. Here's a shot of a bird statue from the ultra wide camera, and GCam is slightly more saturated, so I would give it the win, but both apps are very close this time. Colorful marker scene with the main camera, and GCam is a bit brighter, but there's some noise at the top of this image, unlike stock camera. Ultra wide basically inverts the looks from the main camera, so now there's noise at the top from stock cam. Here's a lovely lady in a giant chair, or maybe a tiny lady sitting in a normal sized chair. And GCam is overexposed. Her skin, shirt, even the grass looks too hot. Stock camera wins this one. The ultra wide doesn't improve much from GCam. Some purple flowers, and both look fine with GCam being just a little more punchy. The ultra wide this time, and GCam shifts a bit too yellow for me, especially in this red brick at the bottom. Here's a bug poster, and again, I like the punchy GCam version. Once more, the ultra-wide is similar, but I wanted to show this non-HDR GCam version, which is still more vibrant than the stock cam, but not quite as sharp. This is the HDR Plus enhanced version, and it cranks up the saturation and exposure, but also introduces some noise. Here's an example of the zoom capabilities. This is the main camera, and here's the very distant birdhouse we're about to zoom into. Boom. This is at 100 times from the stock cam and the max zoom from GCam. GCam looks more natural, but obviously not as close on the subject. The stock cam is working hard to render this properly, and the result isn't terrible. A double turtle zoom comparison from the 5 times telephoto camera, and I think Samsung's stock app is applying too much sharpening for sure. GCam can't get as close to the subjects, but the grass, the turtle shells, and even the water looks much more natural from GCam. Here's an artsy porch swing thing, and the more bright colorful GCam shot again shows that once GCam developers either create ports for the S24 Ultra or Samsung provides an update for better compatibility with third-party camera apps, we'll be able to at least get a different look from this main rear sensor, and sometimes a better image. Before I get to selfies, video, and night mode shots, if you're finding this comparison helpful so far, please give it a like, and thank you. Here's a shot from the selfie camera, and I certainly prefer the color from GCam, but it doesn't hold up well to the stock camera in terms of sharpness or noise. Portrait mode from the selfie camera, and the stock camera wins this time. GCam's edge detection doesn't work quite right on my ear, and I have a bit of a halo as well. The main rear camera looks okay from both, but GCam's a little noisy in the shadows again. Also, I didn't turn on any type of beauty mode, and the Samsung app is much more kind on the moneymaker. Portrait mode from the main camera is also broken, but the stock app is doing a very good job even applying this focus fall off on my far shoulder. Here's the ultra wide again, and I'm not really impressed with either image. GCam's color is pretty far off, and the stock camera is too noisy. Night mode doesn't work for the main camera either. Luckily, Samsung's AI smarts are coming in handy, allowing the stock app to capture a very good shot. Night mode does work for the ultra wide with GCam, but it falls way behind the stock camera. Lots of noise and a greenish tint here. Fire hydrant shot, and GCam again wins on saturation, but it does not handle the highlights very well. The main camera does a decent job from the stock app. One more night marker shot to demonstrate that at least this GCam port is struggling at night from the ultrawide. GCam definitely fails with the selfie camera in the dark. Technically though, the stock app turns on this screen flash by default, which clearly helps a lot. You could also turn on selfie illumination in GCam to get a better result, but it's not enabled by default. The main rear camera does a good job with this selfie in night mode, and in this shot there was very little light hitting my face. Sadly, both struggle at night with this ultra-wide selfie. Even though it's noisy, I'd probably give the win to GCam on this one just because it nailed focus. For video, both apps basically keep performing the way you would expect from the stills. GCam is more punchy, and StockCam is more natural. With video though, you definitely get better stabilization with the stock camera, and the flatter natural look often works better. And here's the selfie video from the S24 Ultra's stock cam. Alright, and here is selfie cam video on the S24 Ultra from GCam. GCam is going too far, and the exposure is simply worse. Also, for now, it's limited to 4K 60. One thing I'm really excited about is 120 FPS slow motion in 4K. It just makes me happy. And currently, that only works in the stock app. Something I noticed while editing the A-roll for this video is this color flickering every once in a while. I bumped up the saturation to show off the problem, but I didn't notice this in any of my other video samples. But this was shot in the Pro video mode, so I'll dig into this problem more in the future. I'll have many more videos comparing lenses and video apps on the S24 Ultra, so please subscribe if you want to see more. But for now, I'll just say that Filmic Pro, MC Pro 24 FPS, and Motion Cam Pro will all work pretty well. A few notes about GCam and just shooting in general on the S24 Ultra. First off, I really like these cameras. Samsung went with a more natural and less punchy look for their stock app this year, and it performs very well. But even though GCam is broken right now, I think we can already see that it's going to be able to deliver some super saturated, punchy shots with this hardware if you like that look. For all the non-main camera shots, I used HDR Plus Enhanced within GCam, which does introduce extra lag, but it's not excessive. You could get different results from the stock app by turning on Scene Optimizer in the settings, but I didn't care for the results in my early testing, so I didn't use it. If you just want a nearly fully working option right now, you could use Open Camera, which I did test with the main rear camera, and it works and looks okay, but it's not my favorite. Overall, at the time of recording, I'd say stick with the stock camera unless you purposely want that punchy, vibrant look for a particular shot. Thanks for watching. Please leave a comment if you find any other S24 Ultra ports that work. I'll test them, and if it's an improvement over this GCam version, I'll link it in the video description. I'll put some more S24 Ultra camera videos right up here real soon. And as always, feel free to leave a comment with any question you might have, and I'll answer them perfectly. Every single time, most of the time.